Over the last several months or so, folks, you have heard me say in one way or another that 2025 is going to be a hard year. You have heard me say things like it will be the last hard year. I think at this point, that call is going to perform very well. I think it will be accurate. And in fact, I think the risk to my call is it's actually a worse year than I even feared. I am talking to real estate agents, mortgage brokers, anybody involved in the housing industry. And what I wanted to do here is talk to a friend of mine who's been through the battles, been through the wars, and really talk about what he does to really keep his mindset right, how to make sure his skills are sharp. And we could just have an honest discussion because some of you, frankly, should quit and go away, while many of you should buckle up and keep moving forward. Because the great thing about a hard year is it eventually ends. And once you get through the last hard year, which I again think 2025 will be, it gets better each and every year, probably for the next decade. Bo, you and I have been through the wars. We've been through seasons, some good, some bad. How do you keep the mind right? How do you keep moving forward? How do you not just get distracted in the suck of a bad season?
Don't go on online, social media, because a lot of it's all negative, really. I mean, I look at it, I'm just disturbed. But I mean, what I do is I keep growing. So like, no matter what, I'm just constantly growing. That's the real secret, I think. I mean, I've been in real estate and lending and this whole thing for 27 years. And I screwed up majorly. I mean, I didn't understand anything when I got started, and I was buying, I was speculating. And when 2007 rolled around, I was so over leveraged. I didn't buy for the right reasons. I didn't have one rental at a time back then. And I was a young, dumb 20-year-old. I mean, many banks and institutions went out. I wasn't the only one, but still,
Yeah.
if I was positioned, I would have been a lot better off. So one thing I could have done is I could have went and got a job after that, because I was like, 27 and had 5 foreclosures on my credit report, $100,000 in charged off debt. I should have filed bankruptcy. I didn't. But anyway, so very humbling experience. So I hope none of you have to go through that experience, because it really it was like I used to say it was an early midlife crisis. Well, what I've learned in my 47 years on this planet is that, look, you never lose unless you give up. So if you know that, and you're going to have some failures, you're going to have some flips that don't work out. Hopefully it's not your first or second flip that you lose money on, and it's later down the road where you can kind of weather the storm. But it doesn't mean you shouldn't get up, go and do another deal. It just means you have to get a little bit smarter and evaluate deals in a better light. So we're going through a time in the economy where some of us will bury our heads in the sand and say, oh, it's going to be difficult. I'm just going to go, something safe so I don't have to think about it. And that's fine if you want to do that, right? But I always say just double down. And like the more your skill sets increase, the more valuable you become. So I always just work on what is my hourly rate and how can I increase that by leverage, by learning something. And I increase my hourly rate all the time. That's leveraging different businesses that I own and different things like that. I partner with different companies. I have different agreements. So I have money coming in on all different places. Obviously not where I want it to be yet, but that only encourages me to grow harder. So I would say, a wise man once told me, thick skin, fat wallet. And I follow that to the T.
I've never heard that before. Thick skin, fat wallet.
Yeah.
I like that. I'm going to steal that. I'm going to give you credit for that, Bo.
I own that domain name, by the way. I
Of course you do. Of course you do. That is hilarious. It's great. How many domains do you own? You must own dozens.
I have about 100 or so. Did I ever tell you about the best flip I did?
No, tell me.
I flipped a domain. I bought it for $13 and I sold it for, I think, $4,300.
There you go. You flip domains.
What's that ROI? Pretty good.
That's a big one. Well, let's talk again about that mindset, because again, I think we're in it. I think there's a lot of real estate agents, a lot of brokers, a lot of investors, and maybe even some employees that are going to go through a season, right? Job losses look like they're going to go up, not down. AI is a threat to many, if not all. And, people are going to go through this. And, I really think you have to ask yourself a question like you did, right? At 27-year-olds, 5 foreclosures, 100K in charge-offs, not in a good spot. Should I just go get a job? And I'm going to be honest with you. Some of you should. right? Some of you got into this game in the last 3 or 4 years. You thought it was easy. You didn't have the systems. You weren't in it for the right reasons. You didn't document. You didn't learn. You got in when the getting was good. And you know what? The getting's not going to be good like that for a long time. So if you know that and don't want to play, it's okay to leave. Don't don't keep one foot in. I think that's the big thing I see a lot of people doing is they're not committed one way or another. If you want to be committed in getting a W-2 for the safety of the paycheck's your thing, go get that. Don't half commit. Half commit is like nothing. It's the worst of both worlds. The other thing I love about your story, and I know dozens of millionaires, multimillionaires, and decamillionaires who went through a season of learning, foreclosures, bankruptcies, all right failures. In fact, most business owners who are now looked at as success, if you dig into their track record, there are plenty of dead bodies and skeletons and failures in there. So don't don't wear it like a scarlet letter. Don't let it define you. Learn the lesson, right? Learn the lesson because the most expensive lesson is the one you don't learn and you repeat. That's on you. But yeah, just know that's okay. And then the last thing I got to say is the more and more I do this, the more and more people I talk to, the economy, life, business is seasons. Sometimes it's winter and sometimes it's summer. And for a lot of people, it's winter. And for some of you, it's a deep, dark, bad winter. But I know this with certainty. If you get your head right, to your point, stay off social media. If you focus on growing your network, if you focus on growing your skill set, if you focus on getting in the right rooms, the season will end and spring will come and then summer will come. Just know that, believe that. And that's why I want people in the real estate industry, if you're really in this and you're committed, 26, 27, 28 will be better than 25. The other thing to know is, dude, we're 3 months in. It's April. We've only got 9 months left in 25. You should be excited. It's almost over. What do you think of all that, Bo?
Yeah, I agree 100%. I mean, it's just like this is a long-term game. And so like every day you're practicing, you're shooting free throws every day. You're shooting free throws every single day. That's the best what they do. They shoot every morning. They're shooting. They're good for a reason because they're practicing. They're always doing their craft. So I think, it doesn't mean you have to be a full-time investor or it's a bad thing to have your W-2. If you're a W-2 employee, how can you rev up your income and buy more real estate? Because we know there's going to be a buying season. And then how do you learn this other stuff, like all this tax stuff and the strategies? And so you save more money and you end up with more, at the bottom line, which helps you invest in real estate. So like, yeah, you can't dabble. You have to go into this business knowing it's a long-term game. And if you do it, you're going to grow and then figure out where you want to grow and then get those mentors in those spaces. I told you I'm taking some tax classes right now because I want to learn it, right? So I'm always doing that and stuff like that because I know the more skills I have, the more I make per hour. It's just bottom line. So like I look at it, look, I'm 47. I thought a little bit different. We all thought, hey, I was on a call with the guy yesterday and he's like, I thought I was going to be a millionaire by the time I'm 30. And he was actually 47, my age. And I was laughing just because we're young and we're going to be this. And then some people get to that point and they're like, oh, I'm not where I want to be. But doesn't mean, look at KFC, right? Colonel Sanders didn't start KFC till he was in his 50s. Like 50s is the new 30s anyway. So even if you're depressed and you're middle-aged and you're like, I mean, just go to the gym and start get somebody to kick your butt for you. Like go get a coach, go get a trainer. If you want to I was watching this morning, or not this morning, another previous day, a guy training people in the gym with boxing. And I'm like, hey, that would get me in better shape. Why don't I just pay $50 a month and join that class? And then I'm like, so I think you have to have a growth mindset. The bottom line, have a growth mindset and like go for it, because if you don't do it now, 5 years from now, you're going to be in the same position and there's going to be the shoulda, woulda, coulda's, and that's not what you want to happen. So whatever you want to do, if you want to change your career, start taking classes. And like, if you wanted to be a real estate agent, go start studying to be a real estate agent. If you want to be a mortgage broker, go get your license. If you want to do whatever, figure out your game plan and then figure out your transition plan. I'm actually doing my first group coaching program because what I realized, this is a big thing I realized, just like we're talking about, most people aren't committed. So now I'm making people get committed. They're paying me. I just started the program, and I will probably raise the price, but they pay $2,000 to join the 8-week coaching program. Okay. But here's the kicker. What does it cost them? $0. You know why? Because if they buy a business from my team within 9 months, they get that $2,000 rebated back. It's not the money I'm doing it for. I'm doing it because I only want people that are committed to buying a business to be in this group.
Yeah. If you pay, you pay attention. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. And so never thought I was going to do a group coaching program, but after studying human nature of people,
like
if you give people stuff for free, they'll never do anything with it. Right.
Yeah. Free's a horrible price.
Pay for it. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. The other thing I will say about a dark season or winter in this analogy I'm using in this video is, if you go back and study history, which I have done, lots of great businesses were launched in winters because they had to. They didn't have options. And again, they reap the rewards in spring and summer. But why do I bring this up here? Bo, you are the concierge to small business lending. You have a website, onerentalmeeting.com, where people can go and talk to you about options. For some of people, if not lots of people, the option is going to be buying or starting a business. Maybe it's dabbling with vending machines. Maybe it's buying an existing business. Shoot, maybe it's buying a franchise because you want the systems and processes. Maybe, and I hope there's more people that do this, maybe you're in the real estate industry. And what you need to be doing during this winter season is adding more income streams. Maybe you should add a painting franchise or plumbing or power washing or whatever. In winter, you can create great deals. You can get seller credits. You can get silent. It's just winter is actually where wealth is made. That's what people don't realize is true life-changing wealth is created in the winter, but received in the summer. Now is the time.
And I think where people go wrong in real estate, and I was probably one of them, is that we buy real estate thinking we're going to get a bunch of cash flow early on, and then we have a couple rental properties, but we realize that's not really the thing that really drives it. It's time, and it's mortgage pay down, and it's appreciation that gets you wealthy. So you really need to grow by creating a cash flow thing first, because without the cash flow, unless you're really good at borrowing private money and you're a deal junkie, and there's only look, it's an 80-20 rule. If you look at the guys that are doing a lot of deals, the wholesalers, right, the Jason Pritchards of the world, right, there's not many people that can act on that level. That's like the top 10, 20%. Everybody else is not going to be able to make money from flipping real estate or wholesaling, right? Because that's a transactional business, and not all of us are cut out for that. So if you look at like the Zuber approach, it was do what he could early on in his job and be really good at his job and earn decent money, and then take every penny and save his money, live below his means, and buy one rental at a time. So if we know that, the reason you're probably frustrated, because I was in the same boat, was like, it really is a myth that, and then we think, oh, we're going to go buy in Indiana because the doors are only 50,000 a unit or whatever. Right. But the reality of it is you're buying cheaper housing stock that has more problems. And so the cash flow doesn't exist for the first 10 years. So you need an operating something that's going to cash flow, whether it's your W-2 job or a business that you start. That will help you get to where you want to be, because then 4 or 5 rentals, then you're in the position where you now have the cash flow coming in because you've owned these assets for 5 to 8 years. They've appreciated. I think that's where we go wrong a lot of times. Wouldn't you agree that we think in our mind we're going to get all this cash flow, but it doesn't happen, and then we have money problems?
Yeah, I think people live in a spreadsheet, and reality is never the spreadsheet, right? Yep. So again, it's important to learn the game. Again, I always tell people the first 5 years suck. It's where you make the mistakes. It's where the lessons are learned, and ideally after 5 years, you start to see that snowball grow. And by year 10, that's my wealth formula, right? Very simply, step 1, discretionary income, grow it. Step 2, become elite at something, AKA buy box. And then the unfortunate reality of getting wealthy is it takes a decade. There you go. That's the wealth formula. Bo, if somebody wanted to take plan B, create an option, start to dabble in vending, buy a franchise, talk about what's possible, where do they go?
Just go to onerentalmeeting.com. If you're looking to buy a business, get SBA financing. If you're in a rural area, we talk about USDA BNI, where we can do big deals for gas stations, assisted living facilities in rural communities. That's a great loan program. USDA BNI, I'm going to start doing a lot more of those. Obviously, SBA 7A, SBA 504, and then, helping people with vending needs, buying home service, boring businesses, franchise startups, franchise resales. And eventually my goal would be, I haven't done this yet, but one of my other goals is like, how do I create like a buy side for people that want to buy mom and pop businesses? It's a very fragmented industry. So typically you work with, the problem with business brokers is it's not like they have an MLS like they do for real estate. So they get the listing and they want to double end it, and they don't share the information. So there's not as much fiduciary duties to like disclose to the world, and then also for the respect of the business. So that industry is slated to actually change, I think, in a big way. I think you're going to see a lot more. You're going to see like a Zillow effect happen at some point, because it's so fragmented, and that will open up. Whoever creates that that'll be a game changer too, because there's a lot of mom and pop businesses that are coming due. But then again, nothing is as straightforward. You still know that like you're buying problems when you buy an existing business. You're like, I know we bought a business that I'm just an investor in, and we had revenue dip, right? And we did. The guy that guaranteed the loan, he was strapped. Right now, we just finally got 30 RV pads approved, which will once we get that built out, that's going to increase the revenue by $200,000. But just because it's an existing business today that has cash flow, you got to remember the seller's positioning it to sell to you. And then once you take it over, doesn't mean you're going to get the same cash flow. Just like everybody thought they'd make a ton of money in short-term rentals during COVID. And now the reality is there's only certain operators that are still very profitable. So we always have to look at all the pain points in any business venture we get into.
Love it. Folks, if you haven't figured out now, he is the man. He cares about you. He's a big part of the One Rental at a Time family. Go to onerentalmeeting.com. It's right there on the screen, onerentalmeeting.com. Thanks, buddy.